quorum, we'll call the Board Finance meeting to order. Roll call, please. Lowry here.
Goss here.
Ordered here.
Pelican here.
Schwengel here.
Columns here.
Okay. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Quick reminder, if you have a cell phone, if you don't mind either putting it on vibrate or turning it off. And also a quick reminder to the committee to speak into the microphones. Okay, you should have the latest that has been handed out. And I believe we are to start on the room tax, set aside line 156. And you also have the request, donation request, totaling $50,024. Janet, do we have the latest, any more update on the room tax collection?
Yes. Have to get to the folder. Get to the right folder.
Okay.
Bottom line is we're about 700 less than last year. And as of the July collection, we are at 32,500 for the year. There'll probably be another 20 or so for August. And then another maybe 8 between September and October, the way things are going.
Okay.
70,000 about.
Yeah, which would put it just about what last year was? No,
Se-
no, you'd be
We're
at
at about,
52.5 plus 863.
yeah, we're at about 62, 63 for the year.
What you said, 32, 540,
22.
22.
Oh, I'm sorry, no. 32
5
5,
plus another 20,
plus another 8.
plus another 8.
60.
that's 60.
Oh, yeah,
60,
my
yeah.
math is wrong. Okay.
Thoughts?
That's monies to be spent on the promotion of visitors.
Not necessarily, that's the 30% that's given back to the communities to spend however they like. We have historically spent it on visitor activities and promotions, but there is no mandate there.
At the meeting of the chief officials a week ago Thursday, a lot of the communities that were there said that when they came to discussing this, where it should go, they were adamant that the visitors use the parks, use the roads, use all the town facilities, and they had no problem with taking that 30% of the town and putting that into parks and roads and general upkeep to keep it nice for the visiting community.
Yeah, if I can add something, this is from a presentation to, I think it looks like from the Door County Visitors Bureau, and it quotes in there, the room tax funds are not free. The community earns those dollars by marketing themselves as a desirable place to stay. So, and I looked at some of the other tourism zone comments from some of the other committee, or other towns, and it did list that they use them for other purposes, but the focus really is to use it to promote, Liberty Grove or Bailey's Harbor or whatever it is. It's not intended to be 100% used as a general fund.
Right. And I guess just a quick take on this, if you don't have people coming and staying in Liberty Grove, this money's not gonna be there.
Exactly.
Frank, you wanna make a comment?
Yes, I sit on the Tourism Zone Commission for the town, and it's come up several times. There is no requirement that that money be spent on specific things for tourists. It can go right into the
Right.
general fund,
Oh, yeah.
and the town has full discretion on however it wants to spend it.
I think Door County North's presentation, not to just choose them, but I think even the Historical Society, their tractor thing pulled in more people, but the presentation that Darcy Pills gave for Door County North and what it drew into Liberty Grove, into Ellison Bay, in dollars, makes, a good case, at least for some portion of that to be used that way.
Yeah, I agree fully.
This list we got from today, that was just basically, people have asked, individual groups have asked for these funds?
Yes, yeah.
What did we give last year for each of these?
Well, Door County North got, I believe 14, if I remember correctly, but they had funds left over that weren't expended from the year before because of the later start. Gills Rock got 3,000, if I,
3,500 Gills Rock.
3,500, okay.
Humane Society, 924. Service Club, 945. Historical Society, 2,100. And then, we've got some of the shredding stuff in there. The porta potties, $480 for the information booth.
How much did the service group get?
945,
945.
945?
yeah.
The service group or the Humane Society?
The Humane Society.
Humane Society got 924.
924.
Okay. How much did Ellison Bay Service Group get?
945.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry, I'm being dyslexic.
Or maybe it's 954.
Gary, go ahead.
What we did last year was we gave them 30% of the requested amount,
Right.
because we did a flat 30% across the board for everybody.
Right.
Didn't we reduce everybody?
That's what I
30.
thought, yeah, we reduced it by
A
30%.
30% reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a minor deal. The fireworks at Gills Rock are always on 4th of July.
Yes.
It seemed to me they're in competition with about 4 other communities up here. Make a lot more sense to have them on I'm not against the fireworks, but it make more sense to have it on a different date than,
They're very well attended.
I know, but they'd be better attended if you weren't up against Bailey's Harbor and Fish Creek.
Fish Creek doesn't do theirs on the
No.
4th.
They
No,
don't?
Bailey's does.
Bailey's and Egg Harbor, but they don't, one always is on the 3rd, and I think that may be Egg Harbor. And Fish Creek does it the following Saturday. They have in some celebration.
I think it's.
Ephraim doesn't do it, they do it on,
Gills Rock for many, many years has always been
right.
on that date, and it's always been well attended. And I think it has a following that's,
Well, when they pass the hat up there,
they do.
they pass the hat, and they get, I think they get a
Yeah.
fair amount of money to
What we
offset.
give them, it doesn't cover all of it. I think the
No, it
total
doesn't.
cost is
Right.
$6,000 or $7,000, we're only getting part of it.
Okay, let me address the elephant in the room.
Thank you very much.
If, we've been talking in 4 months about a levy cap override. If the levy cap override doesn't pass, would this be significant? Would it matter? We've been saying we would have to cut back everything. Nobody would get anything from room tax. We would have to keep it all and put it in the general fund. Is that something that we should be considering here and now? And if we commit these funds and say, yes, we're going to fund this, and the levy cap override does not pass, where does that put us?
Take it out.
Well, I guess my suggestion is that we leave this line item open at this point in time until we find out if the override is gonna be successful.
But don't we have to have a budget that we base the override on that would include what we think is right for these items?
Correct, you have.
Yeah, you're right.
You have to put it in there. You have to be prepared.
Well, why don't we plug in the projected 62,000 and leave it there, not assign it to anybody?
Yeah,
But
because if
still
we have to come back,
up with the
No,
expense
you
side
have to
of
come
it.
up with your expenses. You have to show what expenses you anticipate. So you put in your expense, and, I mean, if everybody thinks that we ought to fund everybody what dollar amount they asked for, you have to put that in there. It's just, if the cap doesn't pass, or even if the cap, let's say you ask for 5 and they only authorize 3, you gotta go in and cut 200,000 somewhere. Is this gonna be one of those things that you cut? And I know what I'm gonna say, so.
Say it. I want to hear
Most
it.
definitely. This is fluff. The money coming into our revenues helps us, and donations are fluff.
well, they're not, they're not completely fluff. It is a promotional event to keep people coming here. If nothing's funded and there's no events that
One comes.
going,
And
somebody will still come, but you're still not gonna have the interest that has been developed the last couple of years.
okay, there were comments made that we should not be funding private business. And is this, I know that it's, it isn't a direct funding, but are we funding private business?
I don't think you're funding them, I think you're supporting them indirectly.
Okay, but, the comment has been made, we shouldn't be funding private business. We shouldn't be supporting private business. So,
Then
and it doesn't mean that I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do
Right.
this.
But then does the town take on the responsibility to do promotional events? Does, instead of the business owners or organizations, then does the town take that responsibility to try and do fireworks and try and do Uncorked and do Ellison Bay Days?
These are organizations. They
Right.
need to figure out how to get it done,
Well, that's why the room tax is there.
okay?
They contribute the room tax.
Right.
We've talked about this in the past.
What-
Has
okay.
Door County North raised their membership fees?
Yes.
To what?
They just voted last week at their board meeting to increase membership fees. Without having it in front of me, I think they're going up $40 to $185.
Okay.
And they're also adding a new associate membership level to bring in the people that maybe didn't want to go to 145, that would get a smaller ad, or however it's going to be regulated, but the board voted on a higher annual membership, an associate membership, and they've even suggested having an individual membership for people that aren't in business that still would want to support the area.
So that they,
Good.
and that's good. This is,
Right.
this is the first time in a few years.
Yeah, I think most of them would like to be self-funded, but if there's a chance to gain some of this room tax money that's intended for promotions and advancement of the economic development, why not use it to some degree and build yourself up? But that's, I think, some of the goals that some of these organizations may have, is to not rely on the public pocket. They'd like to be self-funded, but it takes a little while to grow into that. You don't do it overnight.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, getting back to, we need to put in a number for budget purposes.
for all these?
Well, why don't we just, you got a request for 50,000, we're estimating we have 62 coming in, let's put the 50,000 in there. As
Yeah,
is,
deal it, the other line items we're gonna have to deal with if we don't
that's right.
get an override either. Every line item's gonna have to be scrutinized again.
I have a question, and maybe you can answer this, Gary. The Historical Society, don't they have an independent fund of their own that has a significant amount in it?
The last I knew, as far as being the secretary treasurer, yes. And what they're doing with that, or how they're spending that, and what they've made this year, I have no idea. But they do have a mortgage, which amounts to a little over $12,000 a year that they have to pay out every year, and they still owe somewhere in the area of $160,000, $170,000 on that property. So some of that money that's in the fund has been donated to pay off the mortgage. It cannot not be used for anything else. But if they don't raise enough money through their normal fundraising events, then they have to dip into that fund to pay the mortgage.
Let me make a quick observation here. We've had a request on numerous occasions from Door County North to provide them with a building information center. We haven't been able to do that. It strikes me a little bit that there's a corollary there to the request to erect a building with a cement slab for large artifacts.
Can't be much of a building for 15,000.
That's half,
I mean,
that's half of what they're
Well, that's the Liberty Grove
anticipating.
Historical Society?
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
even for 30.
I guess what I'm saying is we have not been able to, and have not been willing, I guess, much less find the money anywhere,
Able.
To get a new information.
to get a new information center. Is this in the same sort of sit and boat as that is? Are we assisting a building project for an organization?
I think you're
I
correct. in that.
I hate to bring that up, but I mean, I think the reality of it is that it kind of looks to me that that's kind of the same. But,
Well, I think your position to put 50 into that line item is valid right now, and
Yeah.
if we still have this data in front of us,
Right.
and in case somebody else comes at it, or makes an adjustment in their request, we can take that into account when we have to review it again. Because we will have to review it again, I'm sure.
What number would that go under?
156.
Not one, no, 157.
All right, yeah, okay.
That all notwithstanding, and, you know, I hate to be the pukey goat in all this, but I look at what we're faced with, 0 increase.
Yeah.
Which is why I asked what everyone got last year. And I'm looking in at least 2 instances of well over 1,000% increase. Am I wrong?
Oh, you mean, what?
From
according to
what they
this.
received last year from us to what they're asking this year. And yet, how do we reconcile that when we can't even go any higher because of state caps? That's a hard pill to swallow.
John, do you belong to the Ephraim Business Association?
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong here now. The village gives a certain amount of monies to that association, lets them divvy it up as they see fit. Is that a correct statement? So we got requests coming from 2 or 3 or 4 different organizations here, instead of being funneled through one primary one. And I think if you had some sort of a primary director for coming and asking for, well, we're the Northern Door Business Association, we think we should get so much for this and so much for this, so much for this. It would take the burden, A, off this board, and probably get a better use of the monies.
The village pays for the fireworks, and they provide the business council with a building, although I think there's like a nominal rent of $1 or something.
Yeah.
I think the business council pays for the utilities and so forth in that building. And now they've also put an office in the basement of the old village hall. And I don't know what the arrangement is there. If they're charging, I'm assuming there's some charge for that.
Yeah.
However, the village of Ephraim receives over 250,000
Yeah,
a year in room tax.
yeah,
We're looking at 62?
yeah, yeah. Big difference.
And you could target getting higher. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to, I don't know
No.
if we're allowed to speak, is that?
They won't hear them.
Hmm?
They won't be heard.
What?
If you allow them to speak out there, they won't be heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got a problem with the microphones. We've got public input coming up on line 6, so we'll wait till then. All right, are we back to this? And what do we would like to do?
Right now, in economic development, we got 51,374, correct?
Yes.
So that's the number we're looking at, massaging a little bit here.
So that's what we want to get down to?
What line is that?
157.
157.
I'm confused about
I see.
what is income and what is expense. Are 156 and 57 just expense?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
Where's the 62,000?
it's gonna be in the revenue end.
Yeah, we haven't gotten
We
that
haven't
far.
gotten there yet. We're still on expense.
Okay.
So we want to take these one at a time? Maybe that'd be easier to do it.
Yeah, I
Liberty
think
Grove
so.
Historical Society.
If you go with this historical society, this is for actually construction of a building, and to construct a building, that takes a vote of the town meeting. So,
Vote of the town what?
Town electors?
town electors,
Oh,
for constructing buildings or purchase of property. So this is, it's kind of indirect, but it's still showing here as construction of a building, so that number would have to be directly voted on by the town electors.
Except that this money is not coming from tax revenue that the town levies.
Oh, it is definitely considered part of the general revenue.
It's general
Sure.
revenue.
It's general revenue, but not from the tax levy.
that's correct.
But the town is controlling it.
Well, yeah, that's true, that's true.
It's basically the elector's money when it comes into the town. So according to statute, they have to decide if it goes toward a building or a purchase of property. So, that would have to be up to them, that, like I say, a separate vote.
That would have to apply to Door County North as well for,
Not for a coordinator.
Not for
no,
the-
visitor center.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, on the basis of that, I would like to see us take the $15,000 as a separate vote, as part of the budget night. To keep it there, and bring it before everybody's attention.
That'd be pretty tough, Frank, I think.
See, we're almost,
You
this is almost an impossible task, because you don't know what you're working with. You don't have any idea of what dollar figure
Well,
It's coming down the pike.
the vote is not, at the budget hearing, the vote is not on individual items.
Okay.
It's on the
That would
budget
take a special town meeting,
to do that.
right,
Okay,
right.
alrighty.
I hadn't thought of that, but that, to my mind, that really kind of opens up a can of worms, because if you have a building now that is 50% funded by the town, is that a public building, or is that a private non-for-profit?
Yep.
Gotta be public.
If this is a private organization, more or less, the town is, by statute, not allowed to do work for private organizations, except for snow plowing in the winter. So here you got, plus this is a building that's being erected, so it's kind of,
If you leave the
Easy.
15 in there and it's approved, it's still gonna take a vote of the electors to expend that money.
to construct a building.
Right,
The vote would be to construct a building.
right. So if we leave that figure in there and it's, it's approved, then to release that money for the construction, the electors are gonna have to vote for it.
I'd like to get an opinion on that.
Which part?
Whether it's doable at all.
Whether it would take
If
an
the
elector's
Historical
vote
Society doesn't
to
get any money from,
give them the money to do what they want.
they have
What
all
they are
kinds of buildings
suggesting
they
they're gonna do.
fundraise for.
Right.
And it may not be a building.
And I can
think
see
I'd like to,
We might bring
This,
a building
okay.
on site.
Okay.
like to get an opinion on that.
Well, I guess my suggestion at this point, let's leave the 50 in there, and we're gonna come back to all this before the budget hearing anyway.
And Ellison Bay Service Group, not to go over that number again, that was 9 last year.
945,
$945.
945. Less than 1,000.
So that, is there, when they make these requests, I mean, yes, last year Door County North and all of them got a 30% reduction. So some of them did ask for that, a higher number this year. But where does $9,000, do they justify, old Ellison Bay days? How did they pay for it last year if it's $6,250 they're asking for this year?
The letter indicated that they would like to try some new things and give everybody a shot in the arm. I think they have a new board working right now. There's some energy involved, and I think they're gonna try some new stuff.
Good, I think there is some, enthusiasm that's been injected into the town with
Yeah.
some of this last summer, so.
I think they did some fine things this summer besides Old Allison Bay Days. They had the concert in the park. And I think they're a very positive group and are doing much. I think their request is reasonable for what they want to do. I think the barrels certainly are a big expense for them. That's only part of the expense. So, I think the 10-1 is a fair figure. I think I'm the only board member that goes to their meetings. 'Cause
Going back to some of my past experiences, like the museum in Sturgeon Bay, whenever money was appropriated, that took a full vote of the county board to do something like that. It wasn't just we'll give you $20,000 for the leaking roof. And I'm kind of looking these things over, and I see that, I can see the Door County Community Coordinator, 20, I can see the Ellison Bay Service Group, And I like that you've increased slightly the Humane Society and the fireworks, but I have a difficult time funding a new building right off the bat when our budget is so cramped. I know that other areas like the Ephraim Foundation, they've purchased all their stuff from fundraising.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, what you're saying, Hugh, and if we're gonna put a number in the line and move along on it, I guess you put in 35 or 40. And take that into consideration, you know, if by the movement of heavens, we get, you know, what we're asking for, then we're fine. But that may also have to be part of, you know, this focus group. It
Yep.
may have to be part of our presentation
Oh, yeah.
to show where these, you know, numbers are coming from. You know, we're not just picking them out of the air and saying we need to develop, you know, economic development needs 50.
I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I remember when, the last time Fred was here, and he was talking about the high school referendum, and not only did it take a real concerted effort by the board members to show what the expenses were, but he also said they had to show them what would have to be cut out if it didn't pass. And, you know, these aren't idle threats. This is the reality that we're up against, and that is something that we need to demonstrate.
Well, you see what Southern Door High School is doing. They're listing already in advance, if they don't get their
What goes.
override, what goes.
I think
And
that's
I
only fair.
granted, some people are gonna say, well, you're threatening, but
It's only fair. You know, we can't spend straw into gold, and the state wouldn't let us even if we could.
Right, yeah, right. Well, I'll go along with the suggestion Paul has made. Let's take that request down to 35 and take the historical out for this time.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I'll second your
Okay.
motion.
Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're putting in 35 on line,
35024.
oh, 24, yeah. That's the set-aside line, or is that the one, 157?
So what's that number?
Yeah.
35, 24,
But that's being plugged where?
line 157.
Well, if you take 15 off of that, you got 36,374.
Oh,
Oh,
I was
I-
looking at this,
yeah,
okay, the
yeah.
request sheet.
Yeah, take it, okay.
Because we got
Oh, there's other stuff in
we
there.
got that 1350 on there too.
Yeah, okay.
So 36,374?
Well, that's not what the motion said.
Yeah, it's to reduce econ by 15,000. Or wasn't that the motion?
Oh, okay, all right. So we're looking at
374.
374. Okay. All right, moving on, page 4. Okay, we're into debt service, principal and interest, line 160. This is not,
Let's cut it by 25%, say it's even.
right, yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, we don't really have much choice here.
Not unless you want to push that new loan out for a number of years and pay a lot more interest.
The reason we took that new loan was to cut that interest. So, and we called a bond, is what happened, and took,
That's not that.
oh, that's not that one? Oh, I'm sorry.
Line 162 is that one.
What is that one then?
Oh, what is that one then?
That's the one where we started out with 5 and changed to 750, at the end of last year.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Say, Bud, review for me quickly, when do these notes mature, or, and
Which one?
just kind of going down, like, the new loan,
The 162 and 163 are 2018.
oh,
And
150.
the
Oh,
other
okay.
one,
Lines.
line 162, line 163, those two loans, ones are 2018. Actually, the 162 would be renamed a loan right now.
Yeah.
It's a different horse right there.
163,
And the 160, I'm not sure when that one matures, do you?
That was 5 years,
It's
I
around the
believe.
same time.
Yeah, 218. Everything I think
Yeah,
is going to clear off in 2018.
What
three
about the
budgets.
platform truck?
that's all done.
That's done,
That's done,
Yeah.
okay.
And we can't take those monies and put them into the general fund, but we'll reduce the levy rate significantly.
significantly. Yeah. That's the catch-22 in the levy cap.
You know what I hope? Between now and then, someone at the state figures it out.
Yeah, yeah, well,
Don't hold
yeah,
your breath.
maybe.
That chance.
I was at the finance seminar put on by the Wisconsin Towns Association on Thursday, and I had the opportunity to speak with the executive director during one of the breaks. And it's his opinion, he said the levy cap is not going to go away. He said it's here for the foreseeable future, regardless of who's in the office.
Should put a levy cap on the federal government.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
Take away their ink?
Well, and we've taken the position to go for the levy override instead of going for loans, because in the long run, it has less of a financial impact, so. Okay, so the debt service is listed at 662,000 plus.
John, do you think that people want to know the amounts of those loans that are still outstanding as of the beginning of next year in principle?
That's usually in the annual report
Yeah,
at the spring meeting, but we can certainly have that
we
available.
should have that
I think
available.
we should have it
Yeah.
available.
Because the percent on the remaining bond is, what interest? Is that 5?
The one that wasn't callable,
Right,
5.
5.
Now, we have another truck coming up for the fire commission. Is that in here? For the pumper truck? How do we deal with that, Nancy?
Is
Is
that
that-
the one he's asking us to hold
Yeah,
90,000?
Right,
that's
that-
the 90,000.
Right.
So-
That's-
Added that in
That's, yeah, that's part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, let's see here. CIP.
It's line 81.
Yep.
Yeah, fire department, 90,000 proposed on line, 81. That's to help, that's to set the money aside for the new truck that's gonna be, that truck is to be purchased when?
It's got 2015 on the list here, but that could be pushed out
Okay.
to 2016 if necessary. And by putting away the 90,000 a year in capital improvement for the plan for all high dollar items to the year 2030, things will, we'll have some buildup there.
Yeah.
So even if the whole thing isn't funded, at least less has to be borrowed.
Okay, any other questions before we move ahead?
Is there a number on that truck at this point?
Excuse me?
Is there a price on that truck at this point?
125.
125.
Total?
That's our total,
Our part?
that's our portion, I think.
No, I think this is a capital improvement plan for everything. Air packs, defibrillators,
Because we'd have 180 next year if we, the 290s go through.
yeah. Initials. I think this is a Sister Day Liberty Grove CIP plan.
Okay.
Just so everybody understands, the fire board, well, Chris Hecht has asked the fire board to ask the communities to set aside, in this case, it was $90,000 for next year, and I'm assuming the year after, so that we
Yes.
don't take the big hit when the piece of equipment has to be purchased, or, you know,
What Chris did, and I would like to explain it because it,
yep.
he took all items that are significant expenses, like defibrillators, air packs, trucks, and gave them a lifespan in the fire department, and then listed them out to the year 2030, which things would need to be replaced and what the cost would be, added that all up and averaged it out over the amount of years, and figured out how much needed to be put away to have a reasonable shot at funding things as they became due, eliminating the need to borrow with the ensuing interest, and also eliminating the high and low fluctuations. And it's a really wise budgeting strategy, and it's one that I would like to see the town of Liberty Grove embrace at some point in time.
I thought we kind of made the decision at the last meeting, we were gonna try and go out at least 10 years, if not 15,
Yeah,
so.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Going on to line 168.
That's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yep. And then, of course, the 169 is the same.
Should one of those be labeled contingency? I think line
Oh, yeah,
168 should be capital purchase, and 169 should be contingency.
Okay, so you're saying 68 goes to capital purchases?
Capital reserve.
Okay. I was wondering where
'Cause
those
after
were.
that meeting, that's where the bulk of that
Money went, yeah.
was sent.
Mhm.
And then line 169 labeled that contingency.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be more clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Going on, well, nothing on line 170. 171, we don't know. And 172, reserve capital purchases, now that does not come up at 200,000 then.
But that's the total, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
that's-
Well,
total
it
of those
does,
two.
but we just, but you're saying one is contingency. Well, yeah, okay.
They're all contingency funds, essentially.
Well, it's reserve and capital purchases.
Yeah,
so,
really,
yeah.
to be precise, it should be capital/contingency
Yeah.
reserve. Because one has a target of what's
Yep.
gonna be purchased. Contingency is for that unexpected emergency.
Can you just label it reserve accounts?
Reserve accounts, yeah.
And 172, just call reserve.
Yeah, but then you got
Just the total of it,
168
what
as
we're
capital
asking.
reserve too. How do you
Yeah,
differentiate them?
that's gonna be
Okay,
more
isn't this
confusing.
line, isn't the 200 a total of those two?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we've said one is contingency and one is capital purchase
Yeah.
reserve.
Couldn't line 172 just be called reserve accounts?
Yeah, that's what we just, couldn't we do that as a total?
Yeah.
Is that not correct?
Totals for reserve accounts.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Is
Reserve
that what
accounts.
you're saying?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, the 28,701 is a carryover from the current fiscal year? Talking about line 171?
That was a number that was agreed on at the 12-2 meeting.
That's further down the line. That's applied to 15. That's what we nickel and dimed out of the accounts
Yeah.
after that. That's down on line 251.
Where's the 28,701 come from?
That comes from the 12/2/13 board meeting where we went through and reduced a bunch of accounts in of the expense accounts and came out with that number. And the board decided at that time to apply that to the following year to reduce the levy.
Okay.
So that's on line 252.
$252?
250, well, 251 actually.
228?
Okay,
Yep.
okay, there it is.
Okay. Back to 173, 174. And then finally 177. No, that's,
No, that's gonna go down by 35
yeah,
or by
no, 15.
15.
It makes a big dent.
Take this under 3 million.
Okay, on to revenues now. The local tax levy.
That's a factor of all our work here. That number comes in after we're done. So right now, that would be down by 15,000 after what we just did in expenses.
In other words, we can't change that number yet.
That number gets changed independently of changing it. You change expenses and income.
That's a little double speak here.
You don't,
Say that again.
you don't look
slowly.
at it and say, well, we gotta change that number to 2
Yeah.
million even. That comes, right now, that number is actually 15,000 less than what it shows because
Right.
we took 15,000 off expenses, back in the economic
We'll wait for
development
the revision.
category.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Okay, then on to 184, 185.
What is PLT? PILT?
Property in lieu of taxes. Or payment in lieu of
Payment,
taxes, yeah, sorry.
186. 188. Now you're,
That's the room tax income that is going to
Remains
be
the
pretty
same.
much the same.
yeah,
Should that be 62?
Yeah, what about that 62?
yeah,
number?
we are guessing at 62, right?
Well, that's,
I wouldn't
That's-
change it for $4,000. It's a guess anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
correct.
Rather err to the side of caution.
Other tax,
Those are the above.
That's your total.
yeah. Okay, shared revenue, 190. That stays pretty consistent.
That's per letter from the Department of Revenue.
191, fire insurance dues.
Usually creeps up every year, but we hold the budget at a conservative number.
Okay. Highway, aid,
I don't have a letter on that one yet, but I'm assuming it's gonna stay the same as it has the last 2 or 3 years, so. We should be getting something pretty quick on that. I haven't, unless
How is-
I've missed it.
How is that number influenced? I mean, how do they determine that?
They've got a fairly complicated formula that it's displayed on the back of the sheet that they give you. I can get you a copy of that. If you can figure it out, you're doing good.
Well, I just wondered whether it could be, since we have the most roads up here, it's for our 105 miles, it must influence it that way.
It goes off of what you spend,
Right.
essentially.
Oh, that too.
And they've
Yeah.
got a hold harmless where you can't go below a certain amount, so that's, we're usually spending well above what we need to get that amount.
okay. 193, PMS program.
Didn't I tell you,
Pardon?
didn't we get this the other day and I told you that they said PMS, I think, was just under 300?
Maybe you did.
I.
Take that to 3?
Take that, yeah,
Another big C.
Well, is that current or is that for next year?
no, that's for next year.
3?
Mhm.
194, DNR.
I've got to look at this with 185 here. I just noticed that a little bit ago. I'm not sure if that's a doubling up there, but I have to check on that. Because of what we got.
Oh, okay.
We got, the number we got on 185, they're both payment in lieu of tax. But, and I looked at that when I made this up, and I was quite sure that I had 2 different numbers in there, incomes, but in reviewing it before the meeting here, it didn't pop out, so I've got to double check on that one.
Okay, nothing on 195.
What's going on there is, there's an in and an out there. I got the expense in the expense section, and we're getting reimbursed from the county in a couple of weeks for the projects at Sand Bay and Europe Bay.
Okay, then to 197 and 197 may go down by 20,000? Or 22?
Depends on what I find out with
Okay.
the lieu of tax thing here. I'm stumped right now.
199. Am I correct that state statute sets that figure that we charge for? Yeah.
We're at the maximum for both.
Yeah, okay. All right, skipping down to 205.
That's a guess. They're having a pretty good year
Strong
this
year,
year,
yeah.
but whether that will stay that way next year, I've heard, interest rates are gonna stay the same, the banks aren't gonna do anything, so building may stay nice
Yeah.
and steady like it is, but that number's a guess.
Okay, so the total on license and permits, 59,000. Okay, going on to page 5, excuse me. General government fees, that represents what?
Copies that people
Yeah.
want made and, different small items that they come in for.
209,
That's the special assessments for, sewer and water laterals that are sent in by the title companies. What are we at, 25 on that now? There's a fee there that could be raised. We've never raised that. It's been $25 for the last 15, 20 years.
At least 15 years.
And when we instituted that, a realtor
Raise it.
called up and chastised the town for spending that, for charging that, because that should be their duties for free.
It's not a difficult task, but it is a task that it gets passed on to the buyer or the seller, I don't, whoever, so. We do about 40 to 50 every 6 months, maybe?
Well, what does it take to have that raised? What, if we haven't had a raise in 15 or 20 years on that, and we're looking for $500 here at a time,
right,
we should raise it.
yeah.
$35.
Does that take a board meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to suggest that to the board then.
But I'd still leave it at 35.
Okay, you wanna put that on the next board agenda, to increase that to $35? Okay.
You bet.
Driveway permits.
Not much action there at $50 a crack. It's been pretty slow here. We used to crank those babies out one after the other, but not lately.
Well, that's something that I think will increase as building permits increase.
Yeah,
you'd
If
hope.
building permits have gone up,
But
Dri-
they're not new buildings,
no.
A lot of remodeling.
remodeling, so,
And some of these lots have driveways already, so
right.
unless you do $2,000 worth of work on a driveway, the ordinance doesn't take effect.
All right, 211, maintenance, sand.
What's in that?
Sand, maintenance, culverts, things we can provide to people, snow plowing charges.
Wait a minute, what do you mean snow plowing charges?
For wherever we plow snow, some private,
Oh, okay.
very few private ones, and I think road oil's in there too.
Because you had a big increase from budgeted to total estimate.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out what's in there.
Road oil should be in there if I'm correct, yeah.
I don't know, I think I'd feel a lot better taking that one down to 9. And, cause I don't know what's in that 17. How did we end up so much higher?
I gotta take a look, I don't have that in front of me now.
Cold winter.
We don't plow private driveways and charge for them.
Not much. But your road oil is a big item.
I didn't think we plowed private driveways.
Do you do churches?
No,
You wanna take that down to 9? How come, all right, the road oil.
it down to something.
Dan,
Well, unless you can substantiate why it went up double.
Yeah,
I'll take a look, I don't have that here, I'll take a look at it for the next round.
So 10? Let's go 10.
you wanna take a
Harry
quick,
wrote
do
nine.
you wanna take a quick recess and have them go take a look?
No?
No, okay, 10.
Let's go to 10.
Put an asterisk, I just thought we need to come back to that one. Graves,
I'd leave it at 8.
yeah. Dock rent,
Yeah, that's gonna depend on
Boy,
how
oh
well
boy.
that stands up,
yeah, man alive.
And what happens there?
right?
I think that's a hope and a prayer for 23. Unless something's done to that harbor.
Well, but until we go through the process, we
Yeah.
won't know if we're gonna have the money to fix the harbor and.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Okay, on to franchise fee.
Charter Communications,
Should,
Okay.
is that gonna hold?
well, no, cause I'm thinking that when they get done with their fancy footwork, they're gonna knock 1/4 off. So I
How's
think
that in
that needs to
Turner
come down to like
Communications?
9,500.
Is that for use of towers and,
That's just for running their lines through the town,
oh, just to let them do it?
yeah, right.
You're suggesting that goes to 95?
But if it's down 1/4, that's not enough, Janet.
Well, it's,
1/4 would be somewhere around $2,750.
the
Now-
franchise fee checks are not uniform. They are based on who has the service during certain quarters. The last check that we get during the year is less because people will turn off their charter service when they go to Florida.
Yeah, but the lines are still running here.
But they have a reduced, we get a franchise fee that's based on what they
They-
collect. So if somebody turns their charter thing off for the winter, that lowers what we get.
That's done by statute, am I correct? I mean, basically, we can't, or is that done by our agreement with them?
No, I think that more like a statutory thing.
Yeah, if they do it on their own.
Okay, so, 217 is gonna go down a little bit,
63,495.
63, 495. Going in the wrong direction, but.
Yeah.
Okay, grading and material, that covers,
This would be, what we do for the county and their parks.
Okay.
We grade them and then sell them an occasional load of gravel.
and then the, Little Sister Cemetery. Sister Bay shares that, right?
That's their share,
Yeah.
50% of the expenses.
Okay, any other questions on intergovernmental?
Just a kind of a slight change. How much room is left in Little Sister Cemetery?
Not a lot. Been kind of looking around to see if we could purchase, anybody that's willing to sell land for, I've asked a few people over the years, but nobody seems to be willing to entertain selling to the town.
Okay, going on to the interest, line 225. That's not going anywhere.
No.
225 where it is,
Yeah,
but 228, I would eliminate that completely and leave the next line at 700.
Taking out 225, it's gonna be 1,000.
okay, so we're down to 1,000 on that?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be lucky.
Yeah. Okay, going on to line 233, post office rent, it's pretty much fixed.
Yeah, and that's year to year, or month to month, almost.
It's month to month,
Yeah.
but it's a fixed
Yeah,
amount.
but I mean, they can pull it in 30 days, right?
Mhm.
And we can pull it too.
Yeah.
So there's no long-term contract with that.
It is, but it's still a 30-day notice.
Yeah, there's a caveat sitting in there that it's a long-term contract, but,
Could end tomorrow.
yeah.
Something's gonna happen in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're cutting back the hours in Ephraim.
I mean, you know, they spend, what, 160-some thousand? What was that figure on the post office?
Yeah, that ballpark. They're gonna be coming with some request for improvements to the building. The floor is kind of crapping out in there, front and back. The new guru who's heading up Ellison Bay and Sister Bay is, I have heard she's making up a list or wants to talk to us about it. But she's been too busy getting oriented to the whole setup here to approach us yet, but I heard it's in the wind.
Okay.
Any figure for the budget?
Again, we were talking about getting a floor in the toilet buildings like at the fire station. And I think that would be the way to go at the post office too, because that tile they got in there is a bunch of junk. And that was spec'd by the postal service, that's what they wanted.
Okay, going on to hall rental. Women's club rental. $238.
That's
What,
highly unknown. That's what the town gets cut when the treatment plant takes waste from outside of the service area.
oh,
So if they have something that, from the Bailey's Harbor area and they haul it here instead, they pay a little extra and then we get a cut.
okay, 240 other, hall and women's club deposit. Okay, going on to 242, refunds, rebates.
That's virtually unknown. It's high this year because of our refund for the, actually, that's an expense we're talking about here.
Yeah,
This would be for the insurance rebate that we got.
recycling rebate.
It comes through Door County.
Okay, mining class.
That's from the attendees at the class for the class and the food that is served here.
Okay.
We had a big class last year too. So we're gonna need to plug it to make sure we get the big class again.
Okay, the trip grant, that's been shifted over to Scandia Road, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't have a confirmation on that yet, but
Okay.
it should be coming.
Other, what was the 30,000 other in we thought in 2014? Whoa.
I'll have to look that up. I don't have that here either.
Okay, miscellaneous. Miscellaneous. Way up, the estimate, where's that coming from?
For 2014.
Look and see what that is.
I got another one that's
Yeah.
not there.
I wonder if that isn't the same as what's 242.
Yeah, it is. Matches. Well, not quite matches, but close. Okay,
But I wouldn't take it big, I'd leave it either at 300, you know, that's just gonna cover some incidental income that you get.
okay. So miscellaneous revenue is,
Can't count on it.
can't count on it, okay. Going on to funds applied, that's coming over from 2014, right?
Well, the
Well, let's get
28,701 is from that board meeting in December, and the 200,000 is from capital reserve that we decided to put toward the equipment purchase last time.
Okay. Receipts without the levy, 766, huh?
Well, if you
Go ahead.
take the things off, it's 762, 668, 50.
I'm sorry, what is it?
762, 668, 50.
And expenditures, what are we doing that? So we're estimating we have, the levy limit is 1,614,000, huh? So we're in the neighborhood of looking for 600,000.
614,394. I made those, up those next two pages to kind of show what it would cost under the different scenarios and different valuations. So if that initial number will change a little bit there in line 358, column E. So it's basically showing at that, over last year in column L, a 200,000 valuation would pay about 131 extra. In column O, would pay 229 extra. And then R and T show you what the cost would be if we're over the levy limit, what the cost over the levy limit would be. So because your levy limit goes up somewhat, that number is less than what it is going from last year's taxes to this year's taxes versus the levy limit to this year's taxes. And then on page 6A, I've got the whole series of calculations that I used to figure out page 6. A lot of stuff there, but the line 267 pretty much explains how the numbers in those, each column were derived. For example, column G, you subtract F from E to get your new levy. H gives you the percent change,
Oh, okay.
and then the actual levy per thousand is shown in I, and so forth.
Let me ask you guys a question. We're $600,000 short. When you go for a levy override, you're gonna ask for 700? What are you gonna ask for? you gonna ask for 633?
Well, I think after all the numbers are changed, what you asked for is what we're short. That's what you asked for.
All right, if you want to have the roads, the support, the development, all the things that are on every line item, that's what we should ask for.
That'd be the minimum.
And I don't think you should fluff it up and ask, you know, if it's 633, I don't think you should ask for 750,
Yeah.
because it's going to be scrutinized.
If it.
And we can justify, so far, every line that we've looked at, I mean, without the hesitation of $100 here and there.
Right now, with the cuts we've made tonight, we're at 622,057.10.
And
And remember,
That's-
oh, go ahead.
that's what I think we asked for, is the number that we're over. I
Right.
don't think we asked for more.
No,
Bud has some things to check out here that may need to bring it down to 600.
And that number gets us to a point where we basically are breaking, if you will,
Where you're
even
treading water
in the
with your
following
nose just
year.
above it.
Yeah, yeah.
As I recall, last time you wanted to have it as an ongoing thing. So
Yeah.
how would you handle year two?
Year two,
Year two, you're at that level,
same level.
same
Right.
level.
It doesn't
Yeah.
compound.
it doesn't mean you go to that level.
Where we were the previous year,
It holds there.
it holds.
Then you're gonna be soon in the
The-
same,
the-
same position again.
It's a
Breaking even,
possibility.
Yeah.
And the big problem comes in 2018. That's when all the debt is paid off.
Right, but that, yeah, but we're also putting in reserve funds for,
Yes, yeah,
you know, that future expenses instead
Right.
of borrowing again.
right.
Right.
Correct.
And then, just so I'm clear on this, if, when we get involved in some of these presentations, to make it simple, to take, for instance, my house is assessed at 243,100. And I paid, in Liberty Grove taxes, 361. So if I take that 243,100 and multiply it by, if we asked for a 500,000, just to use a number that I used at home, 1.966, that gives me an increase of $115.
Right.
Is that right? Okay. And if you take $1 million assessment, it goes up $464.
Yeah.
Because we're only dealing with Liberty Grove taxes. And that's one of the biggest hurdles we'll have, is they look at the bottom tax dollar number and say, well, it's gonna go up, 32% on my whole bill. No. But that's what we have to ask for, is that amount that we've just studied and gone through.
Now, let me ask this question. In the ongoing meetings, let's take the assumption that the levy override does not pass. Do we need to then put in line what we have to cut? Even though I'm sure some people are gonna say, well, that's a threat, but I think we have to look at, okay, this has to go. And Janet made an interesting point the other morning in the office about the roads. That's the only thing we're really obligated to do, am I correct?
And fire protection.
And fire
Fire
protection.
protection, we heard at the recycling is mandatory as well. At the finance seminar, it was fire protection, stormwater management, roads, and recycling are the four things that are state mandated
By law.
by law. Yep.
So you have to keep your roads in repair by law.
In repair, but not rebuild, but, those are the four biggest areas of expense,
Right.
obviously.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Some towns are going to gravel roads on the side of the state.
Well, that says a lot about our stormwater pipe in Elson Bay, doesn't it? We gotta get at that.
Gotta get at that, I guess.
Did you call Cology on that incidentally?
I haven't called them on that, no. But I shall.
I did call him on the fuel today, he wasn't there.
Is there, if those are the mandated ones or the statute, is, without going through it line by line tonight again, is there a way to, if we had to cut 600 out of there? Where does it come from?
We've tried it in years past.
You haven't got it.
We tried it last year, it came up at $28,000.
Right.
You haven't got it. So that, what that means is, in effect, is
You
even
borrow.
though you have to do your roads, you don't, you just do the bare minimum that you have the money to do them with.
For instance, the state mandates that you have to plow the roads within 72 hours. But that's within 72 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and maybe that's something that the highway has to look at, is simply, what roads need to be plowed immediately, and then, and you don't run the crew all day long on those roads, you cut them back, and,
They actually, on a regular workday, they don't work overtime hours.
right.
What's gonna happen, or what could happen to cut back, is if there's a storm on a Saturday,
Do it
they
on
don't
Monday.
come until
They
Monday,
don't come into Monday.
Right.
because Saturday is overtime. We
Yeah.
had a storm this year on 2 of them,
Yep.
Then
on
you,
holidays.
then you will need 2 more phone lines.
That,
Nobody here to answer. The office is closed.
Well, if you cut
Colorado,
over-
they don't even plow.
If you cut overtime, we don't have any more Saturday burials then.
Oh.
Cut that out.
That little
Now
post
it's
up,
getting
your heart attack
gruesome.
is scheduled for.
Well, all this sounds a little silly, but
Wait till Monday.
That's what it
I
is.
think that I don't think a lot of people realize all the things that the town is actually doing and the money that is actually costing to do those things, and it's,
And the crazy part is, you've got a storm forecast, it's supposed to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, the guys are ready to go. Well, it doesn't start till 4 in the afternoon, well, then they go. So there you got your overtime. And if you're not gonna do overtime, 4 o'clock comes, starts snowing, they go home. How
You
much
get
sen-
overtime, they have
With,
to
with
work,
the patrol truck.
you gotta work 40 hours before you get overtime, right?
correct.
Yep.
but they may have already been in for 38 hours, you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Public input, anybody?
I-
John?
Well, I just have a question. You're talking about working so much,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It doesn't go on YouTube if you don't.
you're talking about wages for plowing. And this was a bad winter,
Yeah.
I would think. If you look at the budget, you budgeted 161,000 for wages for public works, and you're estimating 154,000. So, you're talking about cutting back roads, and where are you gonna cut back money when you haven't even spent your entire budget for this year, projected? Is that right?
Actually, what line are you on there, John? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'm looking at 63.
Okay.
So again, it's just like this
Nope, go
threat,
ahead.
we don't wanna threaten that we're gonna cut back
Right,
roads.
right.
But if this was such a bad winter, and you've already got 161,000 in the budget for last year, and you haven't even spent it as you're estimated,
Here's the problem. This includes November, December plowing, which hasn't happened yet.
but total 2014 estimate. Is that correct,
Right.
Janet? That's for the end of the year you're projecting.
What we've decided to do though is if, for example, in that budget, if it actually does come in at the 154, that additional money is going to be put into the highway budget. It's not gonna be put back in the general fund.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm just
Oh,
saying
okay.
that you're worried about the 2015 budget, and you're already talking about, first place you're gonna cut is the safety of the roads, or our crews working too many hours, when we haven't even, you haven't estimated that they're even gonna be going over last year's budget.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of like, why worry about that $5,000 or $10,000 that'll be there?
Well, we're talking, what, 7,000, right, dollars?
Well, you're proposing 155,000, right?
Right.
But again.
Oh, I see what you're, okay.
What I'm saying is you're already worried about that when we haven't even spent projected this year's budget. And we had a horrible winter. So, again, it's kind of like, well, we're gonna maybe cut back roads. We can't do them on Saturday or Sunday because it'll be overtime. Well, this was a horrible winter, so, I mean, if you're gonna compare winter to winter, well, why are we already talking about that when we,
I think it was just something that was, it's an example of, we cut everything. We don't
Yeah.
know what else to cut.
Can you
So-
tell us what the estimated 2014 actual budget and what your estimated expenses are? Because I don't see that like on the bottom of page 5. You know, you've got it on the proposed, that's how you're coming up with the leverage override. But is there enough money, do you think, this year to cover our expenses for 2014?
There should be.
Sure, that's why we went to your Public Works numbers there in column E, back what you were just talking about on page 2. Those are the adjusted budget figures after we saw we needed more toward the highway department because of the crazy winter. So those numbers are different than what were proposed last fall because of the, for instance, propane. We were over our propane allotment for highways back in January already. So we needed to pop that up for the rest of the years and with some of these other ones too. So that's why our number is higher here than it was originally last.
Are you talking 85
fall.
highway outlay? Is that what you're talking?
I'm talking line 74, column E. Those numbers that are in bold there, if you got the bold
Right.
one, those are the ones that were changed as a result of the special board meeting back in June.
Okay, so then you go to item, outlay on the highway, it was budgeted 180,000, and that was because we had to cut that back because the highway referendum did not pass, correct? We had to cut it back to from I think it was over 400,000 to 180,000.
Right, but then we did have that in,
Special $80,000.
yes.
added on.
Yeah.
So you look at the total 2014 estimated highway of 463,000. Is the fire equipment, is that part of our highway outlay?
No,
Then how come that's in the, I'm bringing this stuff up,
No,
because
no.
if this is what you're gonna give to the public, they're gonna wanna know
Right.
why the fire equipment is part of that. And if you put $90,000 in for the proposed budget for 2015, when you ask for your highway funding, is that gonna be part of the highway funding?
no.
No.
Then why, like you said, why is that in there?
Yeah, that has to come out of there.
And that would go where though?
The 90,000 isn't in highway, it's in capital outlay.
It's an outlay for the highway.
Correct, but
Oh, I see.
the total
I
says.
see what you're saying,
The total
yeah.
says highway outlay, but it's not all highway.
It's capital outlay.
We'll put
It
it,
should be in capital outlay.
that'll get separated out to a different capital outlay category.
And then in the proposed for 2015, you have equipment of 242,000, which is what?
That's
Which
a
line?
patrol truck, right?
That would be line 76?
Yep, that's
That's the patrol truck,
patrol truck.
pickup truck, half of a trailer.
Is that where we put
That's what that is. It's 2 trucks, half of a trailer.
Then you have in line 138, another truck for 25,000.
That's for the parks.
It's half the truck.
All right, so what about 82? And again, I didn't know there were other meetings before this. I received a letter stating in October I'd be getting a packet, so I thought that's what this would be, but 82,
Isn't that half the trailer?
that's the parks. Well, I'm,
That's the other half the trailer.
Yeah.
but the proposed goes down to 4,000 for parks.
That's half of the trailer.
And we spent 36,000 this year,
Right. We had
or
a-
we're projecting to spend 36,000.
Right, we had the highway mower and half of the excavator.
Okay?
Yeah, things got shifted out of highway into parks because of the budget.
Okay, so then basically, this isn't really right, highway outlay and the public
No,
works.
that's-
Because
that-
we've
yeah.
we spent much more than what we thought we would be spending.
We'll split the rest of that outlay out of the highway, so it's separate.
Well, when I look at this, it's like almost $600,000 increase over or that you're asking for, and that's gonna come from, the way it's worded here, the public works and the highway outlay, so that's not gonna be that. But we're still gonna be asking for $650,000 more. Okay, thanks.
Right.
We think. We're not, I'm assuming that's what we're gonna do, but. Okay, anybody else? Gary, please.
As you look at the levy override, I'm going to go back to line 78. We've got a figure there of 35,000, and already now that is well over 70,000. So in terms of the 633 or 613, Cedar Shore Road is off the books as far as being fixed, because there just isn't any money there to do it. And so I'd like you to look at that in terms of the total amount that you're gonna levy, to include not only the 35, but the other $40,000 plus the sheet metal where that pipe's gonna exit, or if there's an alternative plan as far as a rain garden or something like that. But the 35 is unrealistic, so.
Yeah, that's just for the pipe. And then we also had paving of Cedar Shore estimated at 46.5.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that stuff, like Gary said, we don't know yet what's coming with that possible rain garden and/or fixing the sheet piling in the harbor itself.
Or both.
The paving part is in highway and street.
Yes.
And also the pipe. Because that drain, that runs along Cedar Shore Road before it cuts over to the park.
Yeah, it's true.
The
So
30, 30,
35 is a different number than what's in highway and street?
no. The 35 is in highway and street. That's the,
That's line 78.
Yep.
yep, that's the estimate that Steve
Parent.
Parent gave us a few months ago.
And that's basically,
So,
that's not the paving part of it, that's basically the excavating to put the pipe in place.
Just the pipe part.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so what do we have to do to add to the 35
We don't know.
so that Gary goes? The sheet piling cost to replace the rusted out sheet piling where the existing pipe enters the harbor? That's an additional figure we need to get and put it in the budget.
until we have a total actual bidding on that project, we're not gonna know what the number's gonna be.
How quickly can we do that?
Well, a decision has to be made what you're gonna do about the harbor to begin with.
But the
And
paving,
if you wanna do the rain garden.
The rest of that side of the harbor is okay, except for that, what is it, about 20 feet? 10 feet on either side of where the pipe comes out? Because of the toxic stuff that was in that pipe, it got behind the steel sheeting and rotted it out. And no matter whether you do anything, you're not gonna have to replace that, but you only have to replace that 20-foot section. I think we should get a price just on that and add it to the 35.
for the piping. But then if you shift the piping over to go along where the cedars go and come out on a rain garden,
Yeah.
now
but
you've got more
But you
cost.
have to fix the harbor sheet pile,
Sure.
whether you come through the hole there next time, or whether you go down the property line and have a rain garden and go into the bay. So either way, you've got to add to the 35.
Yep.
And you should be able to get a bid on that pretty quick from somebody.
We'd have to have someone draw up specs. I don't think the board has decided exactly what they're gonna do there yet. You gotta look at Shabika's report and then what Bodwin has suggested. So you
Doesn't the
got-
Parks and Property have to do that and give a recommendation to the board?
Yeah, they can do that.
Depends on the direction given.
Yeah, well, let's direct them.
I got a meeting scheduled for, what, a couple weeks?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can wait, can we?
We need to have a number by October 9th
Something like that,
for the
Yep.
focus group.
right.
You won't get that.
You won't get that now.
And for sure, we have to have a number by October 21st and 23rd. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it.
We won't, you can't decide what you're gonna do by then. It's gonna take a while to decide exactly what
I
you
don't think
wanna do.
anything's gonna happen in 2014, or 15 on it.
That's what I'm thinking is, this could take until 2016 budget to actually come to
Okay,
fruition.
then let's take the 35,000 out that's in it.
Well, you could.
If it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen, so
Might as
why
well
put
pull
it in
it.
the budget?
Might as well
Is
pull it out.
Is the repair part of the safety of it down there with the,
I don't think there's any safety involved. I don't think it's gonna cave in, is there?
No,
Being-
no. It's, the storm drain basically is not functional. But,
well, then you can take it out, I guess,
yeah,
if you don't feel that it can be worked on in 2015.
I don't,
I-
I don't think we can get the figures quick
Before
enough.
the focus group, I think, yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
we can get
I'd pull it,
hard figures
Let's pull
at
it.
all.
I'd pull it.
So then when it does come time to fix it, and you pulled 35, then what do you do with,
That falls under Act 20.
So if you're gonna pull the pipe, then you're also gonna pull the resurfacing, correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
Because there's no point in resurfacing if you're just gonna
Tear it up.
No,
no,
So,
and you have to make a decision whether you're going to still dump into the harbor, which is, as Frank pointed out, caused some of the problems, or if you put a rain garden in.
where did the
Which
toxic
ups the
material
cost,
come
obviously,
from
but-
that went into that pipe that caused the steel to rot?
pardon?
Where did the toxic material
Salt.
originate?
Salt from the
Salt
road.
coming off the
Salt
highway.
from the road.
Salt from
Yeah.
the highway, yeah.
Okay.
so then you're suggesting to eliminate line 78 altogether
Mhm.
and lower the 242.5 by 46.5.
That would be the paving for Cedar Shore.
Yeah,
Correct.
yep.
Well, let me add something. If we indeed we're building up some of these reserve funds, and we've already looked at this number to be in there and establish our 633, would we take that number and make it stay at 35 or make it 50 and put it into another reserve fund?
It is
Smart
capital
business.
outlay.
It's also
Well,
required.
yeah, you know, that was something Peter Sauer suggested last week, that maybe it would be smart setting up
That's what
For-
we're doing with the fire truck.
the
That's what
roads,
we're doing with the road.
strictly, yeah.
We're building up savings account.
Yeah,
And it's something you know is gonna happen,
Right.
yeah.
so it's for a purpose.
Why don't we move it,
That's a
move it over?
specific reserve, but it's gonna have to be what? If we take them out of this year's
Well,
budget, the reserve is
I
gonna
think
have
what
to be
Paul's
for-
suggesting though is it's a specific reserve for the roads. It's not just something that can be tapped.
Right, we've got the other ones labeled as
Right.
specific reserves, you can
Right.
put another line in there and make it a
Right.
specific
Right.
reserve for harbor repair.
That's right.
Carry it forward next year.
Harbor and storm sewer.
Because then it isn't taken out, then we don't have to go back and say, well, now it's 100, we just lost 35.
Right.
Right,
Save for it.
right.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. And in the meantime, we study our options for what we want to do.
Yeah.
Well,
We
as
know
long
it's
as-
gonna have to happen in 2016.
As long as it has a designation
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, so everybody knows this is designated.
But if you're doing, okay. Well, taking Peter's thought a little bit farther on that, if you're doing that, we've got those 5-year projections for roads, should you start setting a little extra aside?
I thought that's.
Those aren't capital,
I thought
that's maintenance.
Hmm.
It is maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then this is maintenance,
The sheet piling is maintenance.
yeah.
So is the storm sewer and the repaving of Cedar Shore Road.
Still money.
Yeah.
So it's easier to set this money aside and use it for maintenance than it is, if you're gonna call it maintenance, and to borrow for maintenance. So you set your money aside for that project. If
Yeah.
it's not a capital improvement project, you use the money that you set aside. But so when it comes to do it, you have to borrow money. Well, now the question comes up, yeah, this is maintenance. We're not supposed to borrow for maintenance.
Not supposed to borrow anyway. We're at 25%.
In theory, yeah.
If we're looking at an improvement there and not just simply replacing pipe, and there has been some talk of putting in a rain garden
Right.
for detention and to purify the water a little bit before it hits the bay, that is a capital project. The
Exactly.
pipe itself would be maintenance, the sheet piling would be maintenance, the rest of it would be capital improvement. We can take the 35 and put that in capital improvement for a better mousetrap.
Right, you may have to do that anyways, depending on what DNR or somebody else comes into the picture
Exactly,
and suggests that
exactly.
you can't just keep dumping it straight in.
Right, and we did that with some of the funds this year, where we took some of it from contingency and some of it from capital improvement, that which qualified. So I think that's one way to do it, to put aside the 35,000.
So
Okay.
we gotta rework all these figures again with this in mind.
Oh, yeah. We're not done.
This is on Excel, isn't it, Bud?
Yeah, it's not much to, get a new number cranked out. Depends on how you wanna handle it, where you wanna put it. Getting this highway outlay thing straightened out here.
Well, I think you take it out of the highway outlay and set it aside as a whatever we wanna call it, reserve or capital highway.
Highway maintenance.
But that's gonna be kinda confusing. Even though it is
Maintenance reserve.
I mean, we're hung up in semantics right now.
Right.
It's
We know
gotta
what
be.
we wanna do with it.
Right,
The resurfacing is maintenance. The sheet piling is capital outlay.
well, we're not even talking about the sheet piling here, we're just talking about the pipe right now.
I think well, we don't have the project lined up yet. but
No.
What Gary is saying is, there isn't even enough
To cover
for the sheeting,
No.
to put in the filtration, there's not enough in there.
Right.
So he's suggesting adding more in.
But that has to go in this, according to our discussion, should go into a separate
Right.
category.
Can it be added into the area of 168 through 171?
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
Well, you just call them designated funds and then,
No, you're talking about
If
the
you have a purpose.
35,000?
All that is just a move from one side to the next. That's-
Why, I guess my question is, why can't it go into capital reserve and be designated for rain garden mitigation of stormwater? And if we were to
you
get
could,
a
yeah.
grant from the DNR, or if we decide not to do a rain garden, those funds could be released for something other related to the stormwater mitigation at
Sure.
Cedar Shore.
makes sense. Why not?
It's only 35,000 at this point in time, which, like Gary said, is not enough to do anything this year. But at least it gives us a designated, named place to put it for the next 12 months while we figure out the project.
Well, we also need water at the launch slip, the well situation. We have to look
Well,
into
but
that.
all that is, I mean, that's way off the board right now.
It all got budgeted. We didn't take, did we take
Well,
that out?
let's, everybody comfortable? We move it over
We
into,
didn't take that out, that's still in there.
what are you talking about?
Install water, we left in 10,000 for that.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. But there's no point in installing water until we know what we're gonna do with the whole harbor.
Well, I think we talked about that, but we left the money in there
Okay.
for budgeting purposes. And here again, I mean, you can leave it in here, and if it turns out that it isn't going to happen, then the board just
Yeah.
moves the money from these line items, they move it into a reserve for that project.
That's a
However-
capital project.
However that applies, and you can do that at a board meeting, so.
That makes sense.
So are you suggesting to leave the 35 where it is?
For now, yeah. Just the same way you're leaving the install water, maintenance, drain, leave it all there, and then at a board meeting, move it into, I'll tell you why. You leave it in here as a line item and it becomes more, you can explain it. There is a definition for what the money is going to be used for that's a little clearer to understand.
And just
But we're not gonna use it for this year.
Exactly.
Go ahead, John. sorry.
No, you're not gonna use it for this year possibly. However, to explain, somebody comes to the budget hearing and you're doing line by line by line, you get to capital improvements or capital reserve, and now you're gonna have to explain why you're putting oh, 200,000 into capital reserve, well, it's going to go for this and this and this and this and this.
I
and
would
this.
like to see that spelled out. I've
Yeah.
said that all along.
Right, I
That
know.
just broken right out for
I know.
everyone to see.
Or then-
Didn't the board approve, like, for the money that's approved by the citizens for the highway improvements and public works, or whatever those two items are? Didn't they say that any money that's not used will be carried over to the next year?
Yep.
So basically, you don't necessarily, if you don't do the pipe work this year, it's still in the budget. That money is not gonna be spent anywhere else. It's put into a separate reserve fund, isn't it, automatically now?
That was only for roads, is my understanding. It's not
Only
for
roads.
every line item in the budget.
Oh, I thought it was for, the public works, the total public works and the highway outlay.
Well, and that's correct, but
Yeah.
what we're talking about is not, oh, well, part of it is.
Well, the 35,000 was the
Yeah.
Cedar Shore pipe,
Part-
and you've got the resurfacing in there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So aren't you basically have that in there already, that if you don't do it this year and you haven't spent those two allocated funds, which the citizens approved, that's gonna be put into a separate account and not used for anything else. Already, isn't it? Instead of,
But the Cedar Shore paving in that was not part of what was,
No, we were discussing the
well, but that's part of
stormwater.
the highway and the street of 364,000.
and,
The paving portion was.
right, but you're saying that it's understood then that this is ongoing? That whenever we don't spend what we have budgeted in public works, it stays in public works for,
I thought that
Now,
that's,
year
isn't
after
that what you
year
guys
after year?
approved?
we did for highway, yes, yeah. I-
Oh, just for highways?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that's
And
a good.
I mean, I would have no problem doing it right straight across the board.
Yeah, the more
Yeah.
detailed we are, the better. Then it all comes up and everybody knows about it beforehand.
Yeah.
And
I don't
the-
have a problem
And the
with that.
rationale for putting it back in, obviously, the general fund is that when it comes to setting the, the
Levy.
levy.
Right,
it
I
reduces the
understand that,
levy.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so it's only for the highway.
Right.
The other thing when I talked to Lou about that, I mean, because there was one year it was almost 200 and another it was 150,000. And I think Bud brought this up at a little meeting that we had with Mike Walker, is to not make it look like a slush fund.
Right.
Right.
To have a limit, put a cap in it, so it can't come back to haunt you guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's good to put it aside, but it's gotta be a limit. Otherwise, it could look like a slush fund, and nobody
Oh.
likes that.
Well, I don't think a slush fund is gonna be an option at all.
No.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
that we had extra money, so
Yeah.
it may happen.
So are we gonna leave the 35 cent where it is?
Are we gonna add anything, as Gary suggests?
We only have a concrete proposal of 35, I don't know how you, and we haven't got it, I don't think we can get,
I don't think
No.
35 is even half of what we're gonna need for that.
No.
So I don't know that we could, I don't know that we could put anything more in there. We're talking about trying to cut 600 out of our budget, 600,000.
A telephone call to an engineering firm or somebody that does that type of work should give you a ballpark figure that you could add to the 35.
Someone like Bowden was not gonna stick their neck out for something like that.
I'm in favor of either, leaving it where it is, as designated funds, or putting in cap reserve as designated funds. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't think this is something that we should rush to try and get a figure on.
No.
I think that could bite us in the butt real bad.
well, it's, if you will, it's a concrete estimate, if that makes sense, that we've gotten from the engineer, from Bowden. He's saying that the pipe should be 35. So,
But it's more of a project than just a pipe.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, and as per you's suggestion, Bud's gotta call Cologi to find out if we can get any of that pipe from the county, right?
right.
plus, now who are you gonna have do the estimate? That's what you gotta look at. Because, when you go out for bids, if you have the person that did the estimate do the bidding, well, he's got the inside track, now we're gonna have a little problem with, favoritism toward that firm, if you will. So you almost have to have somebody that you know
Isn't gonna bid on it.
won't be bidding on it.
We go to somebody like ACOM that wouldn't bid on it.
Well, I don't know, they've done work here before, I'm sure they'd wanna bid on it. They bid on, Beals Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, is the 35 stay put, or we,
Quit arguing.
am I hearing yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I say yes, but I'd like to see it at least double.
There's no reason to double it with all that discussion. It's
Yeah.
35, and if
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
put it someplace, then leave it in that line.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the docket again for next Tuesday?
We haven't written that one in yet.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, it is. All of ours.
That's the 30th?
6:30, yeah.
Yep.
Any other public input? I'm sorry if anybody else.
And we'll be getting a revised sheet.
Yeah.
I'll revise that and then explain the ones that we had questions on that I
Yep.
didn't have the,
Yep.
makeup on here.
Can you send that out prior to the meeting?
Yeah, that would be,
I'll get it this week.
Okay.
yeah, we've got that line 194 and,
Yeah, there's a couple of them there that
yeah,
I didn't have.
185.
That's
For
the
sure.
30th that we're on for?
Back
I
together
didn't
on
have it
that.
written down. Is it next Tuesday?
Yeah,
Okay.
unless it's bad for people. Seems to be working, Tuesday seems to be the
Yeah.
work. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, then I move we adjourn.
Whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa,
sorry,
whoa, whoa.
I'm not moving, then we adjourn.
Can I just ask?
Sure, go ahead.
I just, is the meeting next week?
Sorry. It's the YouTube thing.
Is the, I'm Faith Murray, and I'm not sure what group I'm here for because I'm in all of them, but is the next week's meeting the same kind of thing? We're gonna be talking about the budget again. While I'm up here, I just wanted to say, the Historical Society hasn't formed a specific plan, but we know we need a new building. We need exhibit space, display space, meeting space, et cetera. And so, we may not be building,
Okay,
but we need a building. And that's what that was about.
okay, all right.
If we have a building, we're gonna need a foundation. And that was
For
the
the
cost
foundation.
yeah. And so, if we had a foundation, just can I ask this question, would we need to have a electorate vote? If we got funds for a foundation?
We'll find out.
I think
Is
we
that
gotta get
separate
an answer
budget?
to that one.
Okay,
I think we need it.
okay, anyway, that just clarifies for,
The electric to move the 7 buildings that are there now.
That's right.
you know, this,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
But there was no,
funds in that. isn't
yeah,
there? Funds in it.
yeah, we gotta get an answer to that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Number 5.
Number 5, we've gotta do that next meeting.
Bud, that thing that you had me listen to, that came through the email,
On
that one town that they did a little,
Frisco, Texas.
yes. Did everybody get that, or did that just come into the office?
That just came here.
Okay. How about if we send that? I'll
Yeah.
send you
Yeah.
guys a link
Yeah.
Take a look at that, it's pretty neat.
to,
Similar.
Frisco, Texas, that did,
PR.
yeah, for their community. and just take a look at how they did it. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
You know, it'll get your thinking going. So I'll send that link to everybody on their email.
Okay, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
It's actually a conservative ad, $300,000.